We're back on a Monday and excited to be back with the one and only Robert Greene for this new series, which is on the laws of human nature. So, you ready to dive into a world of psychology again in the world of Robert Greene?
We're ready.
Okay.
He's amazing.
Um, there's 18 laws of human nature. We're going to start with law 1,
Okay.
which is master your emotional self. This is the law of irrationality.
Correct.
So master your emotional self. That would definitely be helpful in life, right?
It is.
It's extremely helpful. Controlling our emotions.
I mean, I wish I knew this a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're emotional creatures, and
Mhm.
that's what Robert Greene gets into, that this is our nature. But one of the things that we need to do is in modern times, we have to be less reactive and take time. And he talks about time giving perspective on things.
Yeah, it really does. What matters so much today, 3 days from now, it's not going to matter all that much.
Yeah.
It may be petty, actually, as you look back.
Yeah, but something takes over us,
Right.
and he gets into that. But I thought I'd open with like, where have I seen this in my life, right?
Okay.
And I have a personal story, but as I was reading this chapter, I couldn't help but think of The Godfather
Okay.
and Sonny Corleone.
Right.
And for those who haven't seen The Godfather, we know it very well, one of our favorite movies. But Sonny gets a call from his sister because she had just been beaten by her husband, and this was a recurring thing. And he got a call from her. He realizes what happened. Her husband had beaten her up really badly, and so he gets in the car without any guards or anything, takes off to go kill the guy who, which is understandable, beat up his sister. And he gets caught at a checkpoint, and sure enough, it was all planned,
It was a
and
trap.
it was a trap.
And like you say, it was recurring because in the movie, he beats the living daylights out of him on the street
The first time
the first time around. And he said, if you ever do this again, I'll kill you. And sure enough, he did it again, but it was a trap. And
they wanted to
he was
get
so
to him,
impulsive. And they did. They knew exactly what buttons to push.
exactly. He
And
was
that's one
extremely,
important thing. You know what, Mike?
and they killed him.
They killed him.
They killed him. They shot him to death. I mean, a bunch of cars came in, Tommy guns, and then he was unprotected because his guards weren't there. That's what can happen in life in situations. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is that they knew exactly how he was going to react
Yeah.
because of his previous history of doing things.
Yep.
Okay? Uh, there are people out there that are masters at pushing your buttons,
Oh yeah.
you know? And sometimes I feel that we come across some of those people and they are there to do exactly that, mess you up, push these buttons, and see how you react.
Yeah.
In fact, the book, he's talking about the true character of a person comes out when they are under stress. Stress has the ability to bring out the darker side or the unseen side
Yeah.
of a human being.
Yeah. He talked about the mask that
Yeah,
we wear.
right.
They get unmasked in stressful situations.
I mean, the amount of research that Robert Greene does is
Yeah.
absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's why his books are all bestsellers. But, he says that, okay, so the law is the law of irrationality. He says, look, we are totally unaware, or to a great deal unaware, of how much our emotions control and affect our lives. We're, for the most part, a great deal of us are totally unaware.
Yeah.
He says, even the ones that you think no, because this is not something that is intrinsic with us. According to Robert Greene, we need to learn and practice. Okay, and he compares it to a weightlifter, a person that's weightlifting and trying to build muscles and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. You have to grow and learn to control your emotions. And it's not something that is natural. What is natural is to act on that impulse.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very interesting, Mike.
Yeah. And for those people, and that's why I think this is a great tool to carry and remind ourselves that, hey, we need to control our emotions, because this idea of like, oh, this person is maybe hot headed or very reactive, you know, that's not a sign of strength.
No.
Is in negotiating. If you have somebody, and I caught myself doing this, I caught myself being irrational and extremely emotional
Well,
just
you caught me
last
the other
week.
day.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well,
You told me. Uh, I was out of town and this was a deal I didn't want to lose. And you told me, hey, I think you jumped the gun. Do you remember that
oh yeah,
conversation?
yeah, 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 because you just wanted to resolve it, get it done,
I was out
but
of town. You were here manning the fort, let's say.
yes,
And I didn't have internet. So the internet was spotty. I was up in a mountain somewhere.
yeah, that's why it's good to have a maybe bounce back and forth, but also what he's talking about is catch yourself, study yourself,
Right.
actually sit down and do you understand why you react certain way to certain words, certain people. Um, for me, I got an email and
Okay.
I misread it. I
Oh,
actually thought that they were in this was a business email. I thought that they were putting blame or putting the fault on myself and the parties I'm representing, but and I prepped up an email and everything, and then I saved it as a draft, kind of coming back strong. And then I reread the email and I realized I had misread the email, and it wasn't what they were saying.
no, it wasn't what you thought. They
Right,
were
my
saying what they
reaction,
were saying, but you misread it.
I
So it
misread
wasn't
it.
what you thought they were saying.
Correct. And then I said, "Thank God I didn't send this email. This is last week."
You would have,
Oh,
imagine if you, I don't know the situation, it was last week. If you send that email,
it just would have been real messy.
of course.
So it's a perfect example of, see, this is a quote from the book, Robert Greene. Your emotions dominate you. Absolutely. Um, but time, giving yourself a moment to think, like you said, it may not be important in 3 days
I
yet.
guarantee you, I'm 65 years old, and what was important to me in my 20s, it's no longer that
Yeah.
important. What was important for me in my 30s is no longer that important. And I know I'm going decades back, but I'm telling you
You
here,
could even say last year, what was
that
maybe
is correct.
a situation that you thought was like existential.
That is
It's,
correct.
yeah.
Like the building we bought in Covina, that thing was in escrow for 13 months.
Hmm.
When have you ever heard that you purchase a property, commercial or not? It was commercial. It was in escrow for 13 months. The reason for that wasn't because we were incompetent. The reason for that is that the parties that represented the seller locked the seller up in a horrible situation. But why am I bringing that up? Because there were a couple times where I prepare a really, really strong email, let's say, and it was going to 15 people.
Yeah.
And I remembered very clearly exactly what this guy says, Robert Greene. He says, go ahead and prepare your email and pour your heart into it. You really are upset, but don't send it.
Hmm.
Don't press that button that says sent. Okay? Let it be there, saved as a draft like you did, and then come back to it the following morning. And I kid you not, throughout that course of that transaction, there were 2 or 3 times that I prepared an email. When I came back a day or two later, I didn't send that email and I redid the email
Yeah.
because um, you know, what do they say? Fight fire with fire. Sometimes you, because he says, look, your ego is one of the biggest things that's going to get in the way of you becoming rational.
Yeah.
Okay. And he brings up a lot of good examples.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic book. The first law has got me, um, I mean, it's tremendous.
For me, I really a big takeaway is how people react under pressure, stress.
Yes.
Like, be a keen and observe it. But not only people, how do you react? Are you short? Are you very yeah, do you have like a short fuse in those moments? You know, very irritable. Like, how is it that we personally react? Um,
Under stress.
because it's kind of easier to observe people. Like, oh, they do this, and that's one thing he gets into. He's like, you know, you have this superiority bias, and he gets into the biases and why all the different conviction bias, um, group bias, blame bias. But it's very easy to say, judge other people and never really look at yourself because
Right.
it begins with understanding, introspection.
Introspection.
Yeah.
He says that the road to controlling your emotional self is to look inside of you. And he cites people like Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah,
Meditations.
meditations. You know, so
He was one of the
Julius Caesar,
yep.
he also talked about
Well,
Julius
no,
Caesar.
he brought up Julius Caesar as people that are evoke emotion in you.
Right.
Bill
Mark
Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
Those
Yeah,
were
yeah,
people that,
you're
yeah.
right.
But the
You're right.
ones that had control of their emotions, rational in life, he brought up Abraham Lincoln,
Marcus
Marcus
Aurelius.
Aurelius. He brought
He even brought out
Warren
Warren
Buffett.
Buffett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about Warren Buffett, yeah, he seems like a very calm, calculated individual. He doesn't come across as like a this emotional person.
Right.
Um, there were a few other ones. I think he even brought up Da Vinci.
Yes,
Was
he
it
did.
Leonardo da Vinci?
Leonardo da Vinci.
And a few others that fall under this category of rational people. You know, it's difficult in the moment to be rational and to put the emotions aside. What do you think would be a good practice, like to catch yourself in the moment? Because it's easy to talk about it now. I know we talked about time being one of the tools that could be used.
Yeah.
Give yourself a breather. Maybe walk out of the situation. You're not less of a man or woman by just stepping away and giving yourself a moment to breathe, get a little fresh air, and then come back. Maybe another perspective.
I think that's one of the key issues to begin to develop this strength in trying to control your self emotions. One comparison that he used that I really love, and I want to share it because I think it's going to help a lot of the viewers maybe get a mindset, kind of like a visual, right? I really like the one that he's talking about, um, reaching a balance in trying to control your irrationality, a balance.
A balance, yeah.
He says that the Greeks had it down perfectly with the rider and the horse.
Yeah.
Okay, the rider being the person that's in control. The rider is the thinking self, the one that's holding the reins.
The
Okay,
rational self.
right. And then the horse, he says, look, that is the irrational part. That is the emotion. The horse is full of energy and power and it's wild. But you've got the rider to control it. And I really like that because I set a mental picture of that.
Yeah.
You know, a rider on a horse and the horse has got all this power. And then he says, look, one without the other is lost. One without the other is not going to get anywhere. So you've got the rider and the horse. And I loved it
It's a
because it
great
allowed me to
analogy.
put a mental picture.
Yeah.
You know, the horse is the power, emotion.
which you need that in
You
life.
need that.
That's what I really like too. Robert Greene saying it's, and
It's
he was
necessary.
bringing up the Greeks, I guess, had this analogy.
Yeah,
But yeah, you need it because you can't have one without the other, but you don't want one to take over the other. If you're too hard on the reins and you don't allow the creative side to, that irrational side to have some energy there, then
you're not going
you're
anywhere
not,
either.
no,
You're too
it's you're too
tight.
tight.
You're too tight.
There's no creativity.
No creativity. You're not going to take any risks.
Yeah.
You're just, if you move, you're going to move an inch forward as opposed to maybe a foot. So
But if it's all energy, it's a bucking wild horse
it's
and there's
reckless.
no right, and that's dangerous
That's
too.
dangerous
That's
too.
the sunny Corleones.
That's right.
But the balance, I thought of also like a horse galloping on the let's say the on the coastline on the ocean.
I love it.
And if and that's the perfect in sync.
Right. It's in sync. And he's saying, look, as a rider on, let's say you have a black stallion that's full of energy and power.
Yeah.
As a rider, you channel the energy.
Yeah, that's cool.
When you channel the energy, you can get so far ahead in life in many aspects of it.
Yeah.
We're we're in business, so we're thinking business, but this applies across the board in your personal life, your married life, your spiritual life, your business life. You know, you can. I'm actually like that a lot. I'll
Yeah.
never forget it. It's
Me
the
too.
rider and the horse,
Yeah, that
and I
was.
love it. There was also another thing that he said, look, and this is towards the end,
Hmm.
and I had to read this a couple of times. He says, try to reach a balance. It's not easy.
Hmm.
Think about the weightlifter. You got to go in, you got to practice every day so that you can improve. Ask yourself questions about yourself. That journey introspectively,
Yes.
will help you. But the one thing that I liked a lot is do not lose the elasticity of spirit that you had as a child,
Mm.
you know?
The elasticity of spirit.
Yeah, continue to be curious. Curiosity, they say curiosity kills a cat, right? But he's saying no, be curious about things.
Yeah.
Try to figure out how things work. Learn something every day. Don't lose that childhood spirit, you know, where like a kid in a candy store,
To a
you're
kid,
so excited and
everything is new to a kid.
everything is
A
new.
dog is amazing. A plane is amazing. Everything they're observing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Try to keep that freshness, if you
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
alive in your life,
I like that. Yeah.
that elasticity. That's what he called it. And I like it.
I like that a lot also. Another huge takeaway for me is when somebody reacts a certain way to you, take yourself out and stop thinking that they are react it's personal to you. Think about what potentially did you trigger in this person and try to understand them. Maybe they had a childhood trauma. Maybe something in their life occurred that you just triggered, and that their emotions are coming out in the form of anger towards you.
Right.
Now, if it's a fist fight situation, that's different. And I go back to what Sensei Bill taught me, which was if you have an opportunity, you run. You always run. And then if you're cornered up against the wall, your life or your family's at stake, you fight. And you got to be prepared to fight. But in any interaction like that, somebody's going to lose or both. So just avoid it. But in let's say a conversation and you're having things get heated like politics, religion, right? Those are topics that tend to trigger something. And he goes into group biases that he's like, why is it that somebody on this side of the political aisle, why is it that most of the people in that uh, group have very similar views on things, different ideas. You can list them. Like they probably have the same views on these. And then the people on the other side of the political aisle have also very similar views on things. So it's like you don't have any idea of your own, Robert Greene's saying. These are actually ideas you just took from the group.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. But it's very easy to take things personal when somebody's coming at you very strong. I got hung up on last week. I shared it with you. It was a simple thing. I called Staples. I needed to get something done, or Office Depot, or yeah, and I just needed to know about scanning and this and that, and the person hung up on me because I was questioning, like, oh, what would it cost to do the scan? And they just wanted me to come in. They said, you need to come in. They don't have a price over the phone or whatever. I thought that's odd because usually when you make copies, it's 10 cents a page or something like that. But they couldn't tell me. It said, oh, it depends on the workload of the scan. So I didn't understand it. So I was asking, and then the guy eventually hung up on me. And after being hung up on, it's a horrible feeling. Or maybe I need to get rejected more often to become a little less
You
sensitive
need
to it.
balance in that.
Yeah.
Get rejected more.
But you take it personal, but it's not personal. Robert Greene is saying try and understand the other person. Like if it's a friend, like try and understand why did they react that way. And it's made me look at situations in my life, past situations, from friendships, other relationships, that people reacted a certain way, I reacted a certain way, and I maybe took it personal, but it actually maybe came something, there was something deeper there. And he's saying explore that. Try to find out what triggered that, why, and you become a more understanding person. People begin to say, hey, you know what? Pablo's a lot more, uh, he's a very understanding guy, instead of he's judging people and he's blaming all the time. And so I thought that was a really strong point also.
I've come across in business
Mm-hmm.
people that I've been warned, watch out because she has a short fuse or he has a short fuse.
Hmm.
So it brings to mind, like, for example, it takes a while for you to get upset. You build up to it. But once that thing gets ignited, there's no control.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I think that's not good because it takes you a while to get to a point, but once you get to that point, you explode. That's not good. You should be able to exercise a certain degree of control. Easier said than done. Okay? Easier said than done. Um, and you know, it's he says, look, it's not that easy. And he cites a lot of examples, like that Russian gentleman that used to get beat up by his dad and so forth. And then, as when he grew up, he became a doctor. And then he tried to understand why his father was doing that. His name was Anton Chekhov. And, you know, to be able to do that,
Yeah.
it is a tremendous journey of growth. Okay? Because I don't know that I could do that. If I'm getting beat up, I'd probably leave the house. I probably wouldn't want to talk to that person ever again. And I would probably fight back, you know? But this gentleman, decided I'm going to take a different approach. And in his free time, he became a very prolific writer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting. So, he's talking about a journey that takes energy so that you can learn how to deal with these issues.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And definitely you need a balance because you don't want the other party to think that your inability to react immediately is a form of weakness.
That's an interesting point.
Because, you know, um, some people may interpret that as a form of weakness, and that's not good. Okay, so
Well, that's a difficult one because let's say that I'm reacting this way, and then now I think, oh, you might see me as weak because I didn't react to what you said or something like that. Wouldn't you say that could be also my ego saying this?
maybe,
He thinks that I'm weak, and so I should react,
maybe
as opposed to maybe, hey, you think I'm weak, so what? I mean, it depends. I think the situation,
it
right?
does.
It really depends.
Yeah,
Sometimes you do have to stand up for what, when somebody's coming at you, right?
yeah. I mean,
Sometimes
otherwise,
sometimes a reaction
you
is
can't let
merited.
people run you over either.
No. No, that's a good balance to this because sometimes a reaction is rational, is merited. I've mentioned to you once that there was this one guy that I considered an acquaintance, a friend, and we were in business, not together, we were competitors, but he approached one of the lead sources that I had and tried to take business from me.
Oh, that's not a friend.
And he did it behind my back.
Oh, well, that's not a friend.
And then that lead source came to me and said, hey, they tried doing this. And I remember you and I having this conversation because we've always bounced ideas back. And I had in my mind, I'm not going to say anything. And you said, you got to say something. This is your livelihood,
It's
right?
your livelihood, and what's to stop him from doing it to another lead source? And it's putting revenue in your company and money in your pocket and the people you were employing.
Yeah.
So if you didn't stop that,
At the time, it was just me. It was a
oh,
lot
okay,
younger in my career. And I
okay,
remember you specifically pointing out if you had kids to feed,
you would think
you would
differently.
react differently.
That's right.
It's it's an interesting point. I decided not to react. I didn't react, but I always knew the way this person was. It was almost like a fool me once kind of thing.
Well, there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in knowing who your enemies are and
Without,
not letting your enemies know that you know. I don't know if this is getting too deep or whatever. That's not the intention. But see, you didn't react, okay?
yeah,
But you knew that he tried to take business from
right.
you.
So now I was
He
extra
did it behind your
cautious.
back.
I was high alert all the time now.
So then, but you didn't. I told you with the best of intentions,
Yeah,
go talk to the guy, but you didn't.
right.
So then the thing to do in that case, looking back, my 2 cents, you improve your game.
Hmm.
You make it so shield tight that he can never come in and destroy that bubble. And so you improve your skills, your contacts, your marketing. You make sure that you were doing something right by that person coming to you and saying, "Look what this guy tried to
Right. I
do."
had a good
You
relationship.
had a good relationship with that. So what you do is, he's the enemy. He's no good.
Yeah.
Okay, he tried to backstab you, but you didn't react. So he doesn't know that you know. Then you improve because there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
So you improve all your relationships with all your sources that are sending you business and you make them ironclad so that he can't come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of strength to that
Yeah.
because then if you go and you talk to the guy and you say, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, um, what good would it really do? It wouldn't stop him from doing it again. He already had the guts to do it the first time, so he's going to do it again. It's easier to do things a second and a third time. And if he now knows that it might empower him to, because he did that.
Maybe get more creative in his approach.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that the next time he does it, the source that he approaches will not let you know. So
And
there's a lot of,
yeah, no, these are things that we encounter in real life. And Robert Greene would probably say, like, try and have a better understanding. Why do you think that that person did that?
Well, I think Robert Greene would agree with what you did.
Maybe.
I told you, well, I think he would,
Yeah.
because that's that balance and that introspectual journey that you're trying to follow.
Yeah.
I was very surprised because I remember very well, and I know the person that you're talking about,
Hmm.
because, like you say, we bounced things off each other for many years now. We've been together for a long time, but I was very surprised that you didn't approach him.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I would
Um,
have.
yeah. We'll never know what the correct answer was.
Well, I have a feeling that you did the right thing.
I like this one. This quote from the book: "People who are good looking generally seem more trustworthy." Do you think that's true?
Yes, I do. In fact, I just came from a concert. I went to see Martin Lawrence, and he kind of touched on that.
Oh yeah.
He says, "Have you ever seen ugly people when they apply for a job? They come in, hey, you're ugly, and they apply for a job." He goes, "Well, we can't put you in the front office." This is Martin Lawrence talking, okay?
Yes.
And it was funny. He says, "Hey, well, you're very okay, so you know how to do the job well, you're very efficient, but I can't put you in the front office. You're too ugly. You got to go to the back."
That's funny.
It's funny, okay? But he touched on it because, people that are good looking, according to him, the book, they seem to be what? More trustworthy?
Yeah. Um,
Oh, God.
he talked about in sales that this is something that I had a little note here regarding um oh yeah, the people in sales, that's very common with people in sales. You're good looking, people assume that you're trustworthy. You're successful, people assume you're moral.
In politics, too.
Yes, if you're successful, people assume you're moral. For I mean, this is not everybody. Like,
No, right. I
yeah,
mean, that's what he's saying, and I
that's what
have a
he's
great
saying.
deal of respect for him, but I
I
don't totally agree.
Well, I think you've been around, maybe you've gone through that, but somebody who, let's say, hasn't encountered all these different experiences in life, maybe you might look at that person and think that, hey, they figured it out, you know? You're not necessarily thinking maybe they didn't figure it out the right way. Who knows what they're doing? A sudden success, we can get addicted to the feeling if we don't realize that luck was involved. So that's an interesting one. Sudden, it's
That's for
sudden
gamblers.
success. Yeah. Well, it could be gamblers, or let's say your business.
Right.
Now, you mentioned that when you started your business, you had sudden success, but sometimes I ask myself, is that you looking back now after what, almost 40 years in business, and in the whole scheme of things it seems sudden to the 40 years, or was it the first year success?
So I worked for an insurance company and a Fortune 500 company, and they measured everything for us. And they had what do you call it? Let's see who does best uh,
Competitions maybe?
competitions
Yeah.
all the time. Let's see how many people can sell this many life policies. Let's see how many people sell how many homeowners policy. And so they were always measuring something.
Yeah.
So under those guidelines, okay, I was doing very, very well right from the get-go. Okay. Um, and so
Did you, so would you equate it to sudden success, and then um did you think there was any luck involved in that?
I think there was some luck in it. I think there was some luck. Yes. Yeah. Because I can't tell you, when I started, I knew very little about the insurance business. And it's not like I knew my product 100% because I didn't. There were so many things to study that I would say when I got started, I was pretty mediocre. Okay, pretty mediocre in a lot of the products, but I sold them.
Yeah, you knew how to sell.
And as people started asking questions that I could not answer, I realized I need to get better at this
Mm,
because I don't want to go to up to somebody and look like a fool.
right.
And so I buckled down and I studied because, I passed the test and I went through a training zone and all that stuff. But when they throw you on the streets, it's a different monster when you're alone.
Sure.
You read the books and this and that, but I'm familiar with some of the medical residencies. They say, the first year resident, they just finished 4 years of medical school, but they don't know nothing. And, it's on the job training where they learn. I've heard that said many times.
Mm.
And so I think that's very true in a lot of fields.
Well, one thing you didn't
So I
have,
think it was luck. But they would measure everything.
right.
And I was always coming up on top
So
or
you,
near the top or close to the top or something. I was never number one initially, but I was always close to the top.
but one thing you seem to be able to overcome was, let's say, fear, if you had any fear of talking to people, because that's all you did. You talked to people, you would
Right.
go marketing, you would go meet people,
Right.
and you brought business in.
Right.
And that's
Correct.
something that maybe a lot of businesses, that marketing piece, businesses struggle with.
Well, I started doing things that other people weren't doing. I started making presentations and I tried to teach, but it forced me to learn my product,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um,
Very cool.
and I would go to places like, for example, if I found out that somebody worked in a hospital and that person was a nurse, I would go out of my way to buy pizza or something and talk to all the nurses in that um, department and just come in and talk about it and bring pizza and have like a little
Yeah.
powwow whenever they had a break or something. And so that seemed to help me a lot.
Mm,
And I was genuine in what I was doing.
right.
The other thing that I did was when I was asked a question that I didn't know, I didn't baloney my way through it. I said, you know what? That's an excellent question. I really don't know the answer to that. I should know that. But I'm going to find out right away and get back to you.
Yeah.
And I did, and I would.
People appreciate that.
I think so. Because people
Um,
can tell when you're lying.
oh yeah.
People can
Yeah.
tell when you're lying, when you're being not truthful. People can tell when you're selling a product and you have to sell it,
Hmm.
okay, as opposed to selling a product to help
Right.
someone
Yeah.
because they really truly need it. So
Oh yeah.
the salesmen out there, people are smarter than we think. We are people.
Yeah. But
So
initially you have to do what you have to
you have to
do,
do, you have to
but
try your
but
best.
people notice
Oh,
details.
people know.
And sometimes even then they'll notice and they'll want to help. Sometimes. Um,
I didn't come across that much.
yeah. Most of the time people are looking out to protect themselves.
Sure.
Um,
And the competition got fierce as the years went on. Anyway,
I mean, with sudden success, he talked about the gamblers,
yeah,
and he says, Robert Greene says we can get addicted to the feeling if we don't realize luck was involved.
absolutely.
With
You go to a
gambling,
casino and you hit a pot
yeah,
and then you're flying.
yeah,
You
and
should
you
hear,
think that you have it figured out.
right,
You think you have it figured out,
but you don't.
but you don't. It was just luck.
And if you don't believe me, go to a casino and just sit there for 30 minutes and all of a sudden you're going to hear somebody go, and they're
Yeah,
screaming at the top of the lungs. So you go in that direction and sure enough, they hit a pot and they are on cloud nine. Okay?
sure.
They're on cloud
I
nine
mean,
because
you won
you get
big.
that dopamine. So that's all you have to do.
Scourge.
If you don't believe what the book is saying, try that.
Go to a casino.
Go to
You
a casino
you gotta
and
be
just sit
careful.
down, have a drink, and sit down and relax, and then
Yeah.
you'll hear. It happens all the time.
I know for me, when I first started gambling, and I think it was with roulette that I had. Yeah, it was with roulette that I had this feeling. I put bet down or whatever, and I ended up winning on one of them. And I remember thinking, I got a rush because I thought, how many hours do I need to work to make that money? I was like, oh, that's a 4 hours or whatever it was. That's 3 hours of work. And so I just started equating things to that I would do that a lot. Or let's say I wanted to buy something, I would be like, how many hours of work does it take for me to be able to buy that pair of shoes? Oh man, if they're $100 shoes, it's gonna if I'm making 15 bucks an hour, how long is it gonna take me?
Well, 7 hours.
7 hours. So
A
that's
little
where a
less, but
full
yeah.
day's work,
Yeah.
take away taxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's really good to, your my grandpa, your dad used to talk about luck, right?
Yeah.
He says that it was part of the,
It was necessary.
it was necessary, and you would, I guess, tell him no, it's hard work.
I wish I could go. My dad's gone now, and I never came to terms with that with him. I always disagreed with him on that. And I think that he was very wise. And I believe now that I'm older, that you were right because I always disagreed with him because
There's
I
luck.
worked really hard and I was part of that group that says, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And there's some
That's
truth to that
sure.
because you get exposed to different people, other opportunities open up, doors open up. Just this weekend alone, I met five fantastic different peoples just by joining a club. And I guarantee you that doors will open up there. They already have.
Yeah.
And so it depends who you're hanging out with and so forth. But the harder you work, potentially the luckier you are. But my dad used to say, hey, you know what? You need a little bit of luck. You need some luck in your life. And Lady Luck comes and knocks on your door, let her
Hmm.
in, right? And I always buckled him on that. I said, hey, no, 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 no. It's hard work. It's not this. But I think he was right. Now that I'm older, um,
It almost forces you to be more humble, because it wasn't all you.
that's right.
There was some sort of luck involved. God, the universe,
That's
you were getting
right.
help somehow.
That's right. The energy,
Yeah. So
something
you
out
can't
there.
take all the
You
credit.
can't.
And
You
maybe
can't. And that's the book is saying that too.
right, he's talking about luck,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Even I don't know if you've read the art of the deal.
Okay, yeah.
Um, he talks about some people are really, really lucky, you know. But he says, look, I don't want to depend on luck.
Mm.
I wanna, I want luck if luck comes my way, but I want to be prepared to, you know,
With or without it.
with or without it.
That's a good approach too.
And but he says, I've been lucky too.
Yeah.
The best deal that I ever made was the one deal that I didn't do. Think about that.
Yeah.
The best deal that I ever made was the one deal that I didn't do.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that
It
would
could
have
have
been,
been sabotage.
it was buying a newspaper. And if you guys read the book, The Art of the Deal, he was buying a huge, huge newspaper and he was sick and it was raining and he didn't get to the board meeting on that day. And they said, if you're not here, we're not going to go through with the business. And he says, I'm sicker than a dog. I'm not going.
Mm.
And so the deal didn't get done. And apparently, months later, they had to go into chapter 13. Something
Interesting.
like that. I read this book a long time ago, so you guys do
Yeah.
your own research on it.
Um, is there anything else you want to throw in? I mean, we covered a lot. I think that this is a really good law to carry with us, throughout the
I just want to say one more
life.
thing
Yeah.
regarding the gambling part,
Oh, okay.
because he was talking about, he's talking about gamblers where you gain a lot of money. He's also
Quickly.
talking about business people
Mm-hmm.
where you make a decision and you have this huge amount of profit
Mm-hmm.
based on whatever direction you take your business, okay? Or if you buy a huge property or something, you buy a property and all of a sudden next door gets a permit from the city to build 35 units, then your property improves,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But he was also talking about attention. If all of a sudden you're getting all this attention, he equated it, not only money, but if all of a sudden you're getting all this attention, like if you're in a relationship, you have to be careful because the drop okay,
Mm-hmm.
is severe. And the same goes for the gambler. You can enter a depression because when you get hit with not such good luck, let's say, okay, and you end up losing a lot of attention that you had before, a lot of money that you had before, or making so-called correct decisions, the drop is very severe, very dangerous. He says, you could go, I wrote it down, um, you can fall into a depression, you can get sick,
Yeah.
you can, so there's a lot of stuff that, so the moral of the story is you need a balance as much as you possibly can. And the best way to reach that is to ask yourself questions and look
Yes.
inside yourself and always remember the rider and the horse
Mm-hmm.
and put yourself in that situation. Like, for example, if you're going to react something quickly and be mean about it and send a huge, really strong email, are you letting the horse take over? Should the rider pull the reins back a little bit? I really like that. What do you call it? A metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really like that because it was something that I could sink, my teeth into
Yeah.
and keep it as a visual in my mind. The rider and the horse,
The balance.
the balance.
Um,
The Greeks had it down.
yeah. And I think that that's an interesting point about business and success and profits and things like that. And all of a sudden, all the attention. And I think one thing that Marcus Aurelius did, being that person, the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world at the time, was Robert Greene says awareness of his own weaknesses, of his mortality. And so I think that if we realize, yeah, we might be getting all this attention now, but luck was involved and we got a lot of weaknesses and room for improvement. We try not to let ourselves get
Caught
engulfed
up,
in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
engulfed in it.
Yeah.
And realize, like you just said right now, room for improvement. You learn every day.
Yeah.
You keep the mentality that, okay, I'm doing all right, but I must continue to improve myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there is always, always room for improvement.
Beautiful. We'll close with that.
All right, great chapter. I loved it. Great
So
book.
remember, master your emotional self. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you.